Robert A. Peacock, Bob Peacock.
During the war, where did you live?
When I was going to high school,
Yes.
420 South Greenwood, Park Ridge, Illinois. That's Greenwood and Stewart on the southwest corner. My father built that house in 1922.
During the war, or during your life, tell us about your parents and any of your sisters or brothers.
Give me that question again.
Tell us about your parents or any sisters
My
or
parents?
brothers.
Yeah. My father was in World War I in the Army. He was born in 1896 in Winchester, Indiana. And my mother was born in 1895 in Goshen, Missouri, which is like a suburb of Princeton, Missouri. And they met in Washington, D.C. right at the end of World War I. And my birth date is 1930. They met in 18. They finally got married in 22. And and I have an older brother and sister. And fortunately, I came along too because it was the Depression, and my father had the good fortune of graduated from Northwestern University in 1925, and got a job right away. And 1930 rolled around when I was born. He'd bought a new car the month before, which was shocked me as I got older. But he'd been on a payroll prior to the Depression, and had accumulated some money. So there's a complete answer.
Tell us about your neighborhood growing up.
My neighborhood? It was a fun neighborhood. I had a lot of fun growing up there. It was, typical middle-class Park Ridge neighborhood at the time. And it's still similar to that. It was on the south side of town, 420 South Greenwood. And I have many pleasant memories there. There was a lot of empty lots. We used to convert them to baseball diamonds, or kick the can, or hide and seek, or we would dig trenches and put covers over them, stuff like that. Just things that kids do. And I had a good childhood.
Since when you were born, the country was coming off the Depression. Like, how was the economic situation of your family?
My family? Well, I covered part of that. My father had a job, and he was in the accounts payable with the Illinois Bell Telephone Company. And we were, just average. We didn't get new cars every year, but we lived well. And we always went on a vacation with the family, and, like I say, it was a good life then, like it is now, for me anyway. Yeah.
What do you remember about the start of the war, when it first started?
Okay, during the 30s, there was a lot of news about Hitler and the political goings-on in Europe. And the strongest recollection I have of a real war was I got up on December 7th, 1941, and I'm standing by the hot air heat register because it was cold, and my parents said the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. But of course there was war going on, and I didn't pay much attention. Poland was being conquered, and Hitler was beginning to make his move. But the Japanese thing, where they, bombed us at Pearl Harbor, that got my attention. And I knew that we were at a war, in a war. So that's my recollection of it.
So when you heard about Pearl Harbor, like that, your reaction was pretty, like it was there a lot, like with your friends and yourself.
Well, I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing much thinking for myself, I'd say, for world affairs. But I could tell my parents were very grave, about what was going on. So I sensed that in the conversation in the kitchen. Yeah.
After the start of the war, did anyone in your family or like relatives of yours like go to fight?
Okay, no. Nobody did. I had an older brother, but he was 4F. But neighbors, in fact, a number of neighbors went and got killed. Vicky Fitzpatrick, I recall. Bob Dusing, I recall. In '39, he got killed in Louisiana riding a horse, but an electric line dropped down on his helmet and it killed him. There was people all around. Blue stars, and you see a gold star, that was a fatality, that they'd lost that person who was in the service. But those two that I just cited. Those are the ones that I recall most vividly. Mm-hmm.
You said that your dad worked. Did your mom also work?
My mother did not work. She was a housewife.
Mm-hmm. When you were in high school after the war started, did things change at all? Like the atmosphere, did you notice anything different?
Well, the thing I remember about the war was going on, it didn't seem to really affect us that much. We students were in school. But what really would affect you if somebody in the neighborhood got killed, like Mickey Fitzpatrick. Well, I knew him, and so forth. And that was where it began to hit home. Wait a minute, somebody I know getting killed in a war? This is serious stuff. So I would say that as far as going to the school, I remember going to school, we went on a real old bus because everything was going to the war effort. I think we had a 1919 bus, and it had a hood sticking out, and the guy shifting the gears practically had to use two hands and so forth. But now that would be during the 40s. During 44 to 48, that's when I was in high school. And I used to catch the 8:15 at Greenwood and Stewart. I'd walk across the street, and I could miss that bus sometimes too because it was so easy, or else you're walking there tucking my shirt in or what have you. Just like you'd be.
You said that, high school things changed when you noticed people were killed in the war. At home, did things change more to the effect of like rationing of food and gasoline?
Oh, sure, there was rationing. There was meat rationing, gasoline rationing. Wherever there was a shortage, something that would get rationed too. And we were affected. Yes, the supply of food to the public was affected. And can I tell the gasoline rationing about? Our country's not perfect, but we were pretty close to it. But there was a place when there was gasoline rationing, and my parents wanted to take a trip. My dad would scrounge A stamps or a B from I don't know where you get them, but he'd come home with the stamps to be able to give them the opportunity to buy the gas. And he just, scrape together, because if you just took the allotment that you had, you couldn't do any traveling. And there was also one more, black market gas. Did anybody ever mention that yet? Yeah, there was one gas station you could go to if you got any 50-cent a gallon gas. Gas was like 15 cents or something like that. And my dad, I guess I was 16 because my dad wouldn't go. He'd say, take the car and go get some gas and fill it up. And I was shocked because, that he would spend that kind of money. But, that's what traveling meant to him at that time.
Do you have any stories about food rationing or any other rationing besides gasoline?
Food ration, well, the strongest recollection I have is meat. You had to have stamps. I don't. All I had was a gasoline ration stamp. But we had ration books, and you'd take out a square, and you needed so many points to buy so much meat and what have you. I don't recall. I just have a hazy recollection of that because all I did was eat it. I didn't go buy it. Yeah.
During in high school, tell us about your friends at the time, like what you guys did, how you guys hung out.
Give me that question again.
Like during high school, what did you do with your friends at the time? Like,
What did I do with my friends? Well, in high school is when you flock together and you meet people from the other side of town and so forth, and you form a gang. You know? And but I became a member of 6 of us. We call ourselves the Big Six. And in high school, that's where you, and I'm sure it's true in your cases too, that you drift from your grade school friends to the people, high school friends might be a little, have a common interest with you and so forth. I was always kind of athletic in high school, so therefore most of my friends were athletes. And I think Ralph Bishop, who we mentioned there, he was very good with his hands and could run a lathe. I couldn't even spell lathe, but he was good at stuff. We all, whatever our interests were, we seemed to germinate to that direction. But what we would do, in high school, we got together on weekends to play cards, bridge. We were learning to play bridge, and poker, and what have you. And we'd play tennis, or in the fall we'd play touch football. And although more of that was after, because I played football in high school, and but we just hang out.
In high school, how was like dating in high school? Was it?
How was it?
Yeah.
Well, it was going on. Me personally, the only times I wasn't hooked up with any gal regularly, but I would get dates for the big dances, what have you. And I have pictures. I bet you, if we look in that book, there would be a picture of me and my date, along with my friends of mine. In fact, at the Ye Old Cellar on Michigan Avenue. I remember that's where we went afterwards downtown. Phil Sullivan's dad was downtown. He was an assistant vice president of Commonwealth Edison, and he frequented those places. And we, I didn't know anything about him, but his dad would line us up for us a place to go to with our dates. And I can remember, I got a picture of that in there too.
When you were a student at high school, did you do any volunteer work or any kind of the sort of that?
Volunteer work? I can remember going to pick up newspapers, which was for the part of the war effort. In fact, Ralph Bishop's father drove the Perkins moving truck, and I remember riding there and picking up newspapers. And Sam Marzullo, the old athletic director from Maine, he was driving a truck one time too. But so we were doing that, stuff like that, picking up newspapers for the war effort. I don't know where it went, but they wanted the newspapers and some junk, I think, too. But the newspapers I remember most vividly. Yeah.
During high school, you said you knew a couple people who had been killed in the war. Did they have like assemblies? And remember any assemblies for the people who?
Assemblies?
Yes.
Well, let me think a second. No, the only thing I remember about the war was my freshman year. A fellow by the name of Jack Nicholas, who lived the other side of town, was leaving school early. He was a very good student, and he joined the Navy Air Force. And the school turned him loose because he was going to graduate, but they needed the effort. They needed pilots at the time, and I can remember that. I don't specifically remember them announcing if any alums or ex-students were killed, other than just word of mouth.
Do you remember, did you sell any bonds during the war?
Did I sell bonds? We bought a C-54. I was part of that bunch. Well, that's what triggered this whole thing, come to think of it, yeah. Let's see, that must have been my freshman year. Yes, I can remember going up and ringing a doorbell and, and selling the bonds, but we raised the money. You happen to know the number? It was 500,000 or 300 or 400,000, something like that.
Yeah.
We paid for a C-54, a DC-4, which was made right out here at the Douglas plant. And yes, I do recall that.
You remember, like, is there any certain experience you remember about selling bonds door to door? Is there any experiences with those, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good and bad. Some people were really for it, and some people, when you go and knock on the door, you're going to run into the personality of whatever is on the other side of the door. And I can remember some of them were not really happy to see you, and some of them opened your door and brought you in and set you down, and they'd come up with some kind of money or some kind. That was kind of a purposeful thing that brought everybody together. We were working hard on it. And the fellow that, I saw pictures the dedication of it, and I knew the fellow that was Norm Olson. He was he was the guy up there. Picture of him, he's in front of the microphone. And but he was a whirlwind in school. He was good everything. Good athlete, good student, president of the student council, president of the student council's council, and he was a super guy. Yeah. Superman, that's what I call him. He could do everything. Yeah. Like Michael Jordan on basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were in high school, VE Day came, victory in Europe. What do you remember about that?
Victory of which?
Victory in Europe.
In Europe, VE Day. Well, I think I was a freshman in high school. 44 entered, so was that about in April of 45 or something like that? Okay, I remember, we were relieved about that. And I was in Mr. Robertson's woodworking class, I think it was. My freshman year, you take all different stuff. And that's what I remember hearing about that. Well, I was quite happy. Everybody was. And that's when we shifted our attention from Europe, and everything started moving over to the South Pacific. But I just remember the war ended. I don't remember any rockets going off or any big celebrations. Nothing sticks in my mind right now. But tremendous relief that the war in Europe was over.
So maybe you felt the same relief with VJ Day? Like
VJ Day? Oh, yeah. Sure. Now, let's see. VJ Day. I think I just got together with my friends. I don't know if we went downtown. I don't recall. We were at the age where we could go downtown. But we were all elated that the war was over. Yeah.
So, after the war, you were still in high school, but after high school, how was your life after graduation? Like, after you graduated high school, what did you do?
When I graduated from high school, all my friends were going off to college, but I wasn't interested in going off to college at that point. And so my mother said, why don't you go up to North Dakota, visit your cousin who's a postmaster in Larimore, North Dakota. He'll get you a job in the wheat harvest. So that's what I did. And I went up there, and I found out I better get to college because I don't want to be a wheat farmer. Although I had a good time. And so I started school the following February at the University of Illinois. But I was not really a college kind of thinking guy, even though all my friends were. And coming back from North Dakota, I thought, well, maybe there's other things to do besides being a wheat farmer. And but I got to visit my relatives. It was a good, healthy life. The big thing I remember about that era with my life is I weighed 161 when I went up there. 7 weeks later, I came back, I weighed 180, because when you work the wheat harvest, you get up at 6, you're in the fields at 6, and then 8 o'clock you have something to eat, or 10 o'clock, I guess. And then you go back to the house at noon for lunch, and then you have another something to eat at 4 o'clock, and then you eat again at 8 o'clock and go to bed and get ready to do the same thing all over again the next day. But that was interesting. And I came back much stronger and heavier and more prepared that I better get myself into school somewhere, catch up with my friends.
So after you came back, where did you go from there?
Where's that?
After you came back from North Dakota, where did you go from there?
I went back to Greenwood and Stewart, and let's see if I worked. Got ready to go to school. Got the application. I have the original application in here. Remember I mentioned that when we were talking? And the University of Illinois Extension down at Galesburg. And you know why that happened? Because a friend of mine that I went to high school with, a high school classmate of mine, was there going to school. And when you guys get ready to go to college, you're going to go to college unless you're going to be a doctor or a nuclear engineer or something like that. You're going to go where your friends are. And that's where I went. So that was the beginning of it. And from there over to Champaign and the Sigma Nu fraternity and all that. Then it became the collegiate life. So.
Looking back, as your experience, like during the war years, would you like to tell anybody nowadays, like in our generation, about your experience?
My experience during the war years? Well, my experience was I was just, seeing people that I knew weren't coming home, getting killed in battle or whatever, or accidents or what. But it really didn't affect me personally that much. It affected what you did, gas rationing. You couldn't go anyplace unless you went for that 50 cent a gallon gas or something. But nobody had any money to buy any, that sort of thing. I would say that I had a good life even though the war was going on, because that's what we knew. And that's what I made my friends, high school friends, which I still see today. Some of them are just deceased from, natural expectation. Ralph Bishop and I, we talk about another guy in our neighborhood we just lost that was really a nice guy, that during the Depression he had a motor scooter and a pony. And everybody in the neighborhood got to ride the pony or got a ride on the motor scooter if you were too young to run it yourself. Unselfish. He was a very unselfish guy. So I talk, the bishop, I talk about that. But life was good because that's what we knew. There was no pain or anything like that, but the pain of losing somebody you know. And they were all older than we were anyway, or than I was. But, I would say, as far as we were concerned, we weren't that affected. And I guess you might say that we probably were relieved that we weren't any older because we'd be over there getting shot at too. Which came later. I was in the Korean War, but that was different. That's a different thing. But I don't know if I answered your question or not. Beck, what was it?
No, it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would say that we had a good life. Because we, friends. That's when you're at the age now where you're making friends right now. At the high school, what have you, people you have common interests in. I don't want to take the interview away from you. That's my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, but I couldn't cite it. I don't have a strong recollection of doing it, but I'm sure we did something.
Okay.
Okay.
Just have a few more questions. So, about your personal life in high school, did you get into any trouble with your friends?
Did I get in any trouble with my friends? Like I say in the last interview, my friends were all pretty much athletes, and I don't recall really getting into a lot of trouble I mean, kind of like dumping garbage cans, and that was like 8th grade stuff or something like that. But in high school, what did we do? Well, yeah. I don't know if I want to talk about this or not, but one of the things that wasn't my idea, but I followed along, that all of a sudden a bunch of stop signs started showing up at all the corners that we'd been used to driving through or what have you. And all of a sudden, here these stop signs were, and we kind of resented it. And there was a group of us who used to go out and with a saw, it was a wood. We'd go out with a saw and we'd cut them down. And they made the paper. And we were known as the Park Ridge Firsters. So I hope nobody's got a paper with our names in there. That was 65 years ago. So this friend of mine whose uncle invented Maybelline, did I mention that? I did, okay. Well, he lived on Prospect. As a matter of fact, Marty Butler, who was the mayor of Park Ridge, you've never heard that name, but maybe you have.
Butler,
He lived in their house on Prospect. He lived in Hughes's old house. And anyway, the Hughes parents were off, in high school, and so we were over there. And I remember staying up all night listening to the music. I gotta stop and think. It became a jazz. Some play anyway all night. It was doing all night stuff like you guys. Maybe I don't know if you've done it yet or not, but we would break out from there, cut a sign, and come running back and stuck it up in the attic. And they were up there dropping it in the attic, and somebody got off the rafters, and here came the ceiling like this. It just bent down. It didn't break. And I thought, oh boy, But anyhow, I think those were discovered like 25 years later. I heard something where they reappeared. But that was something that I was not proud of, but that we did. And, get the police's attention and so forth, and made the paper. And because we resented those stop signs popping up, and what did we know? We were just trouble. Yeah, right.
What was the reasoning?
But did I ever get in trouble in school? That was your question was?
Just what did you spend your time doing other than sports, obviously?
That was one exception. What do I spend our time doing?
Mm-hmm.
School activities. My later junior and senior year, working out in the summertime to get in shape for football, wrestling, and that sort of thing. And everybody that I hung around with, they were all athletes. Trackmen, football players, wrestlers. And I was attracted to them, That was our common interest. So, but I was, on the whole, I was not a troublemaker, nor were my friends. In spite of that story I just told. Okay.
But you were very much involved with things that went on in your school, right?
Well, athletic-wise, I was not in the German club or, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with the school, athletics, that was my major outlet.
You talked about some blue and gold stars that were put in people's windows.
Political what?
Blue and gold stars that were in people's windows during the wartime?
Yeah, those were, if you had somebody in the service, a blue star. It was red, white, and blue, and nobody's produced one of those? Okay, yeah, and then if your son happened to get killed, or daughter who was in the service, they would put a gold star in. A gold star, that meant somebody was, in the family was killed in the service. That was a sad, and everybody felt badly about that.
Where was the black market gas station that you continually bought gas at for long trips?
Well, yeah, what about it? You want to know the location of it?
Yeah. Was it like in someone's alley, garage?
No, it's a gas station. A regular gas station. Okay, that was really not the ethical thing to do, but during wartime, black markets and things like that appeared. That appeared.
So like you'd go talk to someone at the gas station and they'd give you as
My
much
dad
gas
would
as you
say,
wanted.
"We're going down to see your brother. Take the car." And oh, yeah, take the car, okay. Go over and get some of that 50 cents a gallon gas. Would you love to have it now? I'll tell you. But, and I would do that, and because I got to drive the car. It was a big deal. But that's just what was going on. And I wasn't the only one. I don't know if you're going to get any other interviewees to admit to that, but I'm just being candid and forthright and telling you exactly the way it was back then. So, but I did that, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, or maybe more than that. Because I was one of the first ones to get the car to drive, and I think I got my license when I was 16. Is that when you get them now?
Yeah.
Maybe I was 14, I don't know. But I got it over in Evanston. And I knew how to drive. Oh, when I was 8, our family car was a Model A Ford. I could drive it when I was 8 years old, too, because one day my dad, a Saturday, my mother wasn't there, my dad was up taking a nap up in the bedroom, and for some reason or other, we got to talking about the cars. Yeah, I can drive the car. Oh, you can't drive it. Yes, I can. I went in and got the key, came back out, started it, backed it down the driveway. It was only backed it about, 30 feet, and back, and then shut it off and went up. I did that like 2 or 3 times. 2 times it was. The third time I go in to show that, yeah, I did it. I come out to the gate, here's my dad. This is here. What's going on? So I guess I got in trouble for it. He wasn't happy about that. But anyway, I was driving a car when I was 8 years old.
How many brothers and sisters did you say you had?
How many what?
Brothers and sisters?
I have 1 brother and 1 sister.
Both younger?
No, I'm the youngest.
Okay.
Oh, can't you tell by my stories that I'm the youngest and I got the benefit of everything? My father was in World War I. My brother was born in 22. My sister in 24, and I'm born in 30. I'm not sure how much they planned on having on the threshold of a depression, but my dad bought a car in March. I was born a month later, and I just recently surmised that, boy, that's amazing that he was spending that kind of money, because as we were growing up, we didn't have that much money around the house. And for him to be spending that much money, he was giving my mother the best care. And because they go to Evanston at that time, that's where the medical, the doctors were. And the doctor she went to was over in Evanston. And it was a tough drive. It was like 8 miles or something like that, down Oakton and those 2-lane roads. But yeah, so give me another question I know the answer to, because you don't.
Did you do any work in high school?
Work?
Did you get paid for picking up those papers?
No, that
No,
was volunteer.
That was completely free.
Yeah, that was war effort stuff. Yeah, that was volunteer. I
But
did not get paid. But did I ever work in high school? Yeah, the first job I ever had, I worked for Art Hansen at the little store at Western and Crescent. There used to be a little store. This is before any day, all you guys here. There was a store down. You know where Lincoln School is?
yes.
The southern boundary that's Crescent, and you go down to Western. Now it's a parking lot for the for the park district and everything, but that used to be woods back there, field and woods, and there was a little store right there. Cappy was the guy, an old couple ran it. And their milk they sold was Brandt Dairy, Brandt. It came out of Crystal Lake or something like that. But, yeah, that was... Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
How long ago did how many sentences ago did I answer it?
No, that was very, very thought out. And the last thing we'd like to talk about is the helmet that you have right there.
Oh, yes. This is a civil defense helmet, and my father was the block warden, I guess is what they called it. He had this helmet, and that's when we were having blackouts and so forth. And we had a blackout schedule, and he in case we were going to get bombed, he could. I don't recall him. He wore the helmet occasionally, I guess, but he'd go out and be sure that everything was black. You know, that there was no light getting out. And this is the helmet that it was issued to him, and I've had it all these years, since about 1941 or 2, somewhere like that. And it's the shape of a World War I helmet, but it's white and civil defense. That's what the sign is on the front. So, thank you for asking. I'm sure you get a kick out of it. My father right now is 118. I'm not going to get any answers from him, but that's where it is. Okay.
Also, do you remember anything specific about the bond drive for buying the C-54 aircraft, or did you have any
For the aircraft?
connections to Douglas aircraft?
Well, you got 2 questions there. That was a school event, raising the bond money for buying the airplane. And the school got behind it, and everybody, all the students went out and saturated the 2 towns, Park Ridge and Des Plaines. And we did every block. Everybody got tapped. So we achieved our goal. I don't remember the details, but I can remember in there, and I thought, I hate to go and ask for money, but the people were receptive. And because it was wartime and so forth. And I don't recall any unpleasant things. I just recall that a guy would open the door, and they were kind of willing, you know, to contribute money. They're buying war bonds, and you know, I can't remember. I don't remember any amounts of money that they donated. $5, $10. That was a lot of money then. 15. I don't recall any numbers. Maybe somebody else will, but it was, the community was receptive for doing that.
Do you remember the school driving you down to the aircraft carrier where you could see the plane?
No, aircraft. No, the airport. We saw the plane over at O'Hare Field. It was It was behind the Douglas plant. They built the Douglas plant during the war to make those airplanes there, and that was the O'Hare, or it's Orchard Place. That's where the identifier ORD for Orchard Place. That's the O'Hare Field, and on the west side of the wooden structure, it was all thrown up quickly, all made of wood, and is where they had the ceremony for the airplane. Now, after the war was over, all I remember, there was a big glow in the sky. That whole plant burned. You ever hear about that? Oh yeah, it was a huge. Ralph Bishop will remember. And they had the sky was all aglow with fire. But before that happened, though, while I was in high school, I got a job working there, driving a forklift truck, because a guy named Patrick Callahan's father was a civil service guy, and he could hire the kids, and I got hired and worked there for a while. And when we had our initial meeting, Stranahan was talking about that. Dick Stranahan, at the when all the classes got together.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And finally, when you were in college, what did you study?
I was a sales, advertising, marketing major. That's my degree. That's what it says in my diploma.
Did you
Business.
Did you end up using that a lot?
Using it?
Yes.
I'm using it right now. Just talking. It's kind of a catch-all phrase, you know. Sales, and management, how to manage people. I use it all. And, you know, I run a couple companies and own them and run them and so forth. Started them. I'm the founder of one company of the Zacilli aluminum industry, where I use the airplane flying all over the place. Because of that skill of being a pilot, I was able to get all that done. And had fun doing it. That was the big thing. Going to work, it wasn't going to work. It was fun. I'd take off. I used to smoke cigars. I'd get up there and turn at the corner there in Lake Michigan, the southern part of it, going down to West Virginia to call it Kaiser Aluminum, light up a cigar, crack the window, and boy, I thought I was living in tall cotton. And I was. But I don't smoke anymore, so. Don't smoke. But, yeah, no. Good life. I've had a good life. How old am I?
83.
True. 4.
It's 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
Yeah. Well, everybody from my class is 83.
How are we doing on the tape there?
Like we got 42 and 42 minutes.
Oh, okay. We got time.
2 minutes.
And I'm the tail end of it, of the people you want to talk to. The classes ahead of me were the ones who were more involved with the war.
Mhm.
You'd probably get better answers.
These are good answers.
Huh?
These are good.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I'm very interested in the environment that you've described for us growing up at Greenwood and Stewart. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about West Park and the shopping areas in Park Ridge. So can you tell me if you played or sledded at West Park?
West Park didn't exist. Remember I told you about the little store, Cappy's, Crescent, and Western? Everything behind that was either woods or a lot. In fact, it was empty land, and then the woods started maybe a little over a quarter of a mile back. There was no West Park. The park that I grew up with was Hinckley, uptown. And I used to go uptown to go swimming, you know. It was a big deal. Ride your bike up or walk up or have your mother drop us off or drop me off. And
what about ice skating?
ice skating, okay, my strongest recollections of ice skating was at Crescent and Greenwood, Crescent and Delphia. On the north side of the street, there was a little low berm around, and the city would flood that, and we skated there.
Oh, interesting.
The Eastman brothers played hockey there. I can have very vivid recollections of them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in that general area, was there a POW camp for German prisoners during the war?
There was one in Des Plaines. They had prisoners working there, but I didn't. I just knew of it, and I might have seen one, but I wasn't exposed. The Des Plaines boys would know more about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far as the library in town, did you use the Park Ridge Library?
Occasionally. In the library, I wasn't a real. Yeah, if I had to go to the library for something, I'd go.
Sure.
And the library was located. Do you know where it was? That house on the. Yeah, it's a John Owens, the lawyer there now, or something like that.
I'm not sure who's there now, but you're referring to the building at Tui Prospect
Right.
and Northwest Highway.
On the northwest Prospect, between Prospect and Northwest Highway, On the northwest side, yeah.
Right.
It looks like a house now. It looks small now, but then I thought it was pretty big.
Huh? Do you remember any other stores in town?
Stores?
I was thinking about the Tally Ho.
I remember the Tally Ho. It's a place to eat.
Right, and the Partridge Pantry.
The pantry, right? Yeah, I remember that.
Were there any other restaurants that your parents might have taken you to?
We didn't eat out very often. I can remember having lunch at Nick's, which is on Main Street and the first street off of Toohey. It was in a corner. He was Nick the Greek, and when I was in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade, we'd go there and have cheeseburgers or hamburgers. It was a big deal, because I didn't eat out much, but my friends, my world was expanding. In 7th and 8th grade, the Northsiders came over, went to school at Lincoln. I lived 3 blocks from Lincoln, and I got to know those guys, and we'd go play baseball or something like that, or swimming. And we'd go to Nick's for lunch. That was a big deal for me. Yeah. But other restaurants, the Tally Ho, the Pantry, those were fine eating places. I remember Robinson's, the ice cream place, the Coffee Cup.
All right, and you mentioned you went to Lincoln School. Where did you go to grade school?
Lincoln School, kindergarten through 8th grade.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a...
What year did I start? 1935. That's what the school is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, Riverview. Did you and your friends go to Riverview?
Did we go to Riverview? Yes, I went to Riverview. We skipped over that. My mother wouldn't let me ride the parachutes, but I fixed her after I got married. I rode the parachutes and the bobs. I was regulated. And the bobs. That was the big thing. Now you mentioned Riverview. Well, I hope I'm gonna be stumbling here, but there was a Riverview pass that was here. Let me see.
Do you remember how much it cost to get in?
No, I do not recall, but I know they charged you to get in. Anything, and spending any money was against my parents' wishes. But yeah, we would go. That was a big deal. But I had that here. Whatever fell out. But I have a review. Those are the letters from my cousins during the war.
I'm just trying to film some of the pictures so that we can access them later if we need to. Very nice.
Well, that's great. So you have a recollection of going to Riverview.
Must have been. My mother put him. She put it in there in the scrapbook.
All right.
Right.
Well, thank you. Those were just some follow.
This is not worth recording, but in here somewhere,
This on? Yeah, on here.
and he remembers it too. I got drafted in there, and we were putting a circus on. I was an act on a swing or something. I can't remember. But anyway, it got written up, and if I run across it here before it's bedtime, it's in here somewhere because I can remember seeing it. Dempster Golf Club. We played golf in 7th and 8th grade. That's Catholic Cemetery now.
Oh.
St. Adalbert's.
Yeah, that's it. Bishop. Oh, right here. You missed it. One Act Circus makes a hit on Delphi Avenue, right next to the Riverview.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's let me see here.
Rob?
Ralph Bishop, Robert Peacock, and Donald Miller, Ruth Group. Yeah, okay. It's a good thing I went through this stuff before I came over here.
That is great.
So that's some of the things we did. The bishop, he was 3 years older than me, but he was about the same size I was, you know. But I have strong